Hello, Bharti. I think we can get started now. Hello, Bharti. Are you there?
Hello.
Yes, Bharti. We can get started.
Okay. So let me present my screen. So good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be learning about e-invoicing and what solutions Gstsm provides for integration. Okay. So welcome everyone. My name is Bharti, and today we'll be discussing the basics, Excel and API integration, and some legal provisions concerning e-invoicing. So these are the topics that we'll be covering: the basics of e-invoicing, legal provision, how to create an account with NIC, how to integrate through Excel and APIs, and generation and validation of e-invoice, issue of e-invoice to customer, and what Gstsm is offering in this regard. So before moving on, let me tell you a little bit about Gstsm. Gstsm got started in 2017 mainly as compliance software, and since then we have also delved into e-invoicing. So besides e-invoicing, we provide many services such as return filing. In that, we provide filing of GSTR 1, 3B, 9 and 9C. We provide reconciliation and reports. So it includes books versus GSTR 2A, books versus GSTR 2B, sales register versus GSTR 1, and similarly some PAN level reports and consolidated report where comparison of GSTR 1, 2A and 3B is done. We have other tools as well, such as autopilot, wherein a user can perform the same function for multiple GST numbers at a time. You also get the facility of JSON to Excel conversion. We have various validators which can validate GSN or HSN in bulk. Okay, let's look at some of our numbers. We have more than 30,000 users. Lakhs of reports have been downloaded from our software. Millions of invoices are processed daily, and we have more than 20 crore invoices in our database. Okay, so now getting on to the main topic. Why e-invoicing? Why has the government introduced e-invoicing and why should you implement it? Okay, so you should not think of it as an additional burden. It uh, it has brought India's ease of doing business ranking from 77 to 63 in 2021. It brings in transparency. Okay, and it will also help in standardizing various processes. It reduces data entry error and saves cost. So whoever has implemented e-invoicing till date has found that it has reduced their cost by 96%, allowed them to save 80% of their time, and it has increased their efficiency by 15 times. It also helps in better compliance by the taxpayers and simplifies the audit processes. Electronic invoicing or e-invoice. So there is no prior standard under GST or any other statute that e-invoicing relates to. Having a standard is a must for interoperability across various players. So till now, all of you must have been using some kind of ERP, accounting software. Okay, so you have the option of generating a soft copy, but generating a soft copy in let's say SAP, you cannot transfer the same data into another software, let's say Tally. So interoperability is not possible since people are using various ERPs. Through e-invoicing, now it is possible for interoperability between various systems. The government has prescribed a format to create an e-invoice that has to be followed by everyone. So when you're generating the e-invoice, it gets auto-populated in your GSTR1. That also populates GSTR2A and 2B of the recipient, as well as it also gets populated in the e-webbill system. So that enables, so if you are generating e-invoice, it goes to all the places and helps in interoperability. Okay, so let's look at this example. So if I am in India, so I'll be using type D. If I want to charge my laptop, the adapter will be in type D. So if I move to some other country, let's say Singapore, and there you have switch with type A, you won't be able to charge your laptop. So this is a similar problem. There is no interoperability in here. So if you are using e-invoicing, the format everywhere will be the same. So it enables interoperability between various players. So now let's look at the e-invoicing progress in India. So this is not the first time that e-invoicing is going live. The first batch went live on 1st October 2020 for businesses having turnover above 500 crores. The next batch was 100 to 500, which went live on January 2021. Similarly, so the latest batch has gone live on 1st of October 2022. So you should not, okay, we are beyond that point, but we should not wait till the end point last time to implement e-invoicing. Now let's look at who is required to issue e-invoices. As per the first notification, that was 61/2020, the taxpayers with aggregate turnover in a financial year above 500 crore were enabled to generate e-invoices from 1st of October 2020, and the most recent notification for 10 crores and above is 17/2022. Let's look at the relevant notifications and rules in this regard. So e-invoicing was notified by uh, Central Tax Notification 68/2019. Rule 48 gives the manner of issuing e-invoice. Rule 48, Subrule 4 prescribes a Form GST INV1. It gives a format in which the e-invoice has to be issued. And Rule 48, Subrule 5 says that if you are not issuing the invoice in the manner prescribed in Form GST INV1, the invoice will not be valid. And if you are not generating an e-invoice, you're required to have multiple copies of the invoice, like your copy, the recipient's copy, transport, once for the transporter. But if you're generating e-invoice, multiple copies are not required. You can just have one copy, and that would be enough. So as per notification 69/2019 notifies the common portal, that is e-invoice1.gst.gov.in, and 60/2020 specifies the schema, that is the format of the e-invoice. Persons exempted. So the people who are exempted from e-invoicing are an SEZ unit, a government department, local authority, and persons covered by CGST Rule 54, which includes insurer, or a banking company or a financial institution, including NBFC goods, transport agency, passenger transportation service, admission to exhibition of cinema films in multiplex screens. Which transactions are covered by e-invoicing rules? Now, please pay attention to this slide. This is very important. So it shows the documents and the type of transaction that are covered under e-invoicing and the ones which are not. So the documents and the type of transaction highlighted in green are applicable for e-invoicing, others are not. So if you are generating an invoice which is on a taxable supply, so you have to generate e-invoice in that case, and the credit notes and debit notes associated with that will also you'll also have to generate e-invoices for those. if it is a non-taxable supply, like a bill of supply or a delivery challan, e-invoicing is not applicable for that. Similarly, it is not applicable for an ISD invoice. Now, looking at the type of transaction, if you are giving the invoice to a registered person, that is, they have a GST number, you have to generate an e-invoice. Similarly, if you are creating an invoice for government, that is also B2B, and for exports. So in these three cases, you have to generate e-invoice. But if you are issuing the invoice to a B2C, that is an unregistered customer, e-invoicing is not applicable. So basically, in that case, you will not be generating an e-invoice. Purchase from URD or import of goods and services. Okay, so to summarize, you have to generate e-invoice in case of taxable supplies to registered persons, that is B2B, and in case of exports. The documents and transactions which are not covered under e-invoicing are your non-taxable supplies or supply to an unregistered person, that is B2C. Registration. So how to enable yourself for e-invoicing? So government usually has enabled the user by looking at the turnover for the PAN. You can also enable yourself on the e-invoice website. So we have various portals. So e-invoice sandbox is given by the government to test your data. So before going live, you can test, you can make yourself aware of the process, see the types of error you might get and how to rectify them by going registering yourself on sandbox. The government has also provided a trial portal, but it is only available for PAN based turnover more than 100 crores. And for going live, you have to go through einvoice1.gst.gov.in. So it also provides other tools. So it will give you a list of the GST numbers which are generating e-invoice, so you can verify if you are getting an invoice and it is not an e-invoice, it is a regular invoice, and that GST number is supposed to be generating an e-invoice. You can check from the list if they are in there. Then you can demand that you give us an e-invoice because you are enabled for it. Similarly, you can also check the enablement status of your GST number. The government also provides a free Excel tool to generate e-invoice, that is the offline utility, that is a form of Excel wherein you put in your data, generate the JSON from that and upload it directly to the portal. Plus, the government also provides a QR code verify app. Using that app, you can scan the QR code on the e-invoice and verify that this is a valid, a legitimate e-invoice. And you can also verify it using the response JSON. Okay, so once you upload the JSON to the e-invoice portal, it gives you a response. Okay, it will show you a PDF as well as it will give you a JSON. So that JSON can be used to verify a signed e-invoice. How does this process work? So if you have connected your ERP or you are generating the JSON from any other source, you upload it to the e-invoice portal. So the e-invoice portal has various registrars. So each registrar has its own function. It might validate your uploaded JSON. It will check for duplication. So when you generate an e-invoice, let's say for invoice number 121, you cannot generate an e-invoice again for the same invoice number. So it will check for the duplication. It will sign the e-invoice and then give you a response. The response will contain the digitally signed invoice and the QR code. When the e-invoice is generated, from there, it will also get auto-populated in GSTR1. And if e-way bill is generated, it will also go to the e-way bill system. Okay, let's look at the process in a little detail. So if you are the supplier and you are generating the e-invoice, it gets validated by various registrars, validating the JSON and checking for duplication. From there, it will go to the GST portal, the e-Webel portal, and other parties. It will get auto-populated in GSTR1. From there, it will go to recipients GSTR2A and 2B, and it can go to other users as well. So it will allow for transposting through API in your books. Now moving on, we'll look at some terms and definitions. Invoice reference number, IRN. This is what you keep hearing in regards to an e-invoice. This is basically a unique number that is issued for an invoice. It is a combination of the taxpayer GST number, financial year, document type, and invoice number. So based on these four details, a unique 64-digit alphanumeric number is generated and given to you on an e-invoice. So it is for computers only. You will not be able to decode it. So if we take these four details, the GST number, financial year, document type, and the document number 2. So this combination has given us this IRN. So IRN is unique based on the combination of these four details, that is the taxpayer GST number, financial year, document type, and invoice number. Okay, what is invoice registration portal? So when you are sending the data for e-invoice, it goes to the invoice registration portal. So taxpayer uploads their e-invoice data. Okay, it checks for duplication and validates the JSON. It goes to the e-invoice registry, from where it confirms the new invoice. If e-Webel is also generated, the the invoice goes to the e-Webel portal as well, and from there it gets populated in GSTR1. It will also give you the information in the form of QR code and signed invoice. So this is authorized by the government. First IRP is run by NIC. Second IRP proposed to be run by the GSTN. It has not been done yet. It verifies and acknowledges e-invoices, replies within the blink of an eye, and retains invoices for 24 hours. So if you generate the invoice, let's say e-invoice today, after 2 days, you won't be able to retrieve that information, because beyond 24 hours, it will not keep your information. Does not contain a listing of invoice. So this threshold 24 hours is also for canceling. So if you have generated an e-invoice right now, you will only be able to cancel it within 24 hours. Let's say by 3 o'clock tomorrow, beyond which you won't be able to cancel it. So this is what a response from IRP looks like. When you send the invoice and the e-invoice gets generated, these are the details you get back. So you get an acknowledgement date and time. So it is basically the time at which you have generated the e-invoice, an acknowledgement number, IRN, signed invoice, signed QR code, and the e-Webel details if those details have been passed with the e-invoice. This is what the PDF looks like. It has the QR code, the IRN, acknowledgement number, date, and the other details of the invoice. Okay, so now let's look at the QR code. This is digitally signed by NIC. It contains high-level parameters of an invoice. By scanning this, you won't get all the information of the invoice, but it will only give you high-level parameters of the invoice. By scanning this, you can check the authenticity of the invoice. So what information does it give? It gives you the buyer GST number, document date, number, document type, whether it's an invoice, credit note, or debit note, IRN, item count, main HSN code, seller GST number, and total invoice value. How does GST then integration work? So let's say you have Tally ERP. We install our TDL. Using that TDL, the E-invoice information, basically the E-invoice JSON, will be sent to Zen Cloud, where we validate the data, and after validation, the E-invoice JSON is sent to the IRP government portal. From there, Zen receives the QR code and IRN, and the data is saved back in the user's ERP. Now let's look at the frequently asked questions by users. So in this area, we'll be looking at change in books versus change in IRP portal, change in IRP portal to change in GSTR1 and E-Webel, and E-Webel active, E-invoice cancelled. At what time is the E-invoice required for a particular transaction? If you are moving the goods, E-invoice has to be generated before the movement of goods commences. Invoice for across the counter sale before completing the sale. Invoice for services before issuing the invoice to the customer. So all of you are aware that in case of E-Webel, you have to generate the E-Webel before transporting the goods. So in a similar way, you have to generate the E-invoice before moving the goods. So E-Webel is generated on the invoice, on the E-invoice. So first you generate the E-invoice, and then you generate the E-Webel, and then you send the goods. How do E-Webel work? E-Webels work. E-Webels are governed by Rule 138 of CGST rules. So the E-Webel rules remain the same. E-Webel can be generated simultaneously along with IRN, as I mentioned earlier. So along with invoice information, if you send the E-Webel details, both will get generated simultaneously. Or using the IRN, the E-Webel can be generated later. So let's say I'm generating the E-invoice now, but I'm not moving the goods today. I have to move them day after tomorrow. So using that IRN, I can generate the E-Webel the day after when I'm actually moving the goods. So IRP supports E-Webel only for invoice. Okay. So E-Webel on E-invoice cannot be generated for a credit note or a debit note. Only for an invoice can you generate an E-Webel in case of E-invoice. If you want to cancel the invoice, first you'll need to cancel the E-Webel, and then you can cancel the E-invoice. So if you are generating E-invoice and E-Webel now simultaneously, and let's say after 10 hours or so, you want to cancel the E-invoice. So first you'll have to cancel the E-Webel for that, and then cancel the E-invoice. So as talking about E-Webels, see it will be based on the same rules. If you were not generating an E-Webel, let's say for an invoice with total of 25,000, you are not generating E-Webel for that. So to now also, you won't need to generate E-Webel in that case. So E-Webel will follow the same rule, except where it is an invoice, you have to generate the E-invoice as well. How to print the E-invoice? So you have to print the invoice with IRN QR code. QR code in a digital display is sufficient during transportation. You don't need to have a hard copy. The digital display will be enough. How to send the E-invoice to the recipient? IRP will not send it for you. You have to email it yourself. So you should message the acknowledgement JSON along with a PDF so that the user can verify the E-invoice using the acknowledgement JSON. The government is building a system to send E-invoice directly to recipient, but it has not been implemented yet. Jstsm provides this system. If you provide the email ID along with your invoice details, it will automatically be emailed to the recipient. What details of the E-invoice should we save in our ERP? So you should save the acknowledgement number and date. Also, you should save the QR code digitally signed by the IRP. Until what time can I register the e-invoice? So it is recommended that you register the e-invoice within 48 hours to comply with Section 31 of GST Act. So it is recommended that you generate it within 48 hours, but I would say that you can also generate it. You can also the e-invoice portal allows you to generate e-invoice for a backdated invoice. Okay, but you should generate it as soon as possible. When you're issuing the invoice to a customer, it should be generated before that. If you're moving the goods, it should be generated before movement of goods. Can the e-invoice be cancelled? Yes, the e-invoice can be cancelled within 24 hours of creation. Can e-invoice be modified? No. If you have generated an e-invoice and if you by mistake you have entered something wrong, okay, you cannot amend it. You cannot modify it. The only option available to you is cancel the e-invoice and generate a fresh e-invoice. You won't be able to use the same invoice number as well. Let's say I have created an invoice number 120. Then I saw that by mistake I have given the wrong quantity in the invoice. Now, if I want to modify it, I cannot do it. So I'll cancel that e-invoice and generate a fresh invoice. So the number in that will be 121. I cannot use 120 again. What if I have generated an invoice by mistake and it is not cancelled within 24 hours? So if that window has lapsed, what should I do? So you have two options. One, you can create a credit note and generate a new invoice. The second is cancel it from your books, and while filing GSTR1, do not report it. Remove it from your GSTR1 while filing. Some common errors and how to avoid them. So you might get an error, invalid HSN code. So you can validate your HSN code using Zen's validator. You can also validate them on the GST portal. PIN code does not match the state. So on the e-invoice portal, they have given a list of PIN codes that belong to a state. You can verify the PIN code using that list. Recipient Gstin is cancelled. So if it is cancelled, B2B is not applicable if the recipient GST number is cancelled. So you, in that case, B2C is applicable, and on B2C, e-invoicing is not applicable. So to avoid such errors, you can check the status of the GST on the GST portal, or you can use Zen's tool, that is GST validator, to check the status. Inconsistent amounts. I would recommend that you use the software so that you avoid these human errors of addition or subtraction, or the errors which are avoidable by using a software. You should also make sure that you are not giving the wrong supply type. Let's say you're supplying to an SEZ, but you mark the supply type as regular B2B, then the IRP will give you, will not check this invoice type, but you will have issues filing in GSTR1. E-invoice technical aspects. Okay, so we'll be looking at preparation of e-invoice as per schema, communication with IRP, sending it to the customers, and receiving the e-invoice from suppliers. When the ERP or the accounting software is sending the data through Zen, we first perform a set of validations to check the data. Then we send it to the IRP government portal. Once it is generated, we fetch the IRN, digital signature and QR code, and save it back in the ERP. If the email ID is also provided as part of the invoice details, it gets emailed directly to the recipient. Now, what is e-invoice schema? The government has given a specified schema in which all the invoices have to be sent. Basically, this is what you have to follow for creating an e-invoice. It has various sections: headers, transaction level, document level details, seller, buyer. So it has a set of mandatory and optional details. So in this image, you can see the details which are mandatory. So in seller details, you have to provide the GST number, the name, the address, the PIN code. Similarly, buyer details need to be provided. Then the document details, that is whether it's an invoice, a credit note, or a debit note, invoice date, type of transaction. Later on, you have to give the line item details and the total amount details. So all of these fields in this image are mandatory sections that have to be provided for each invoice. Now, if you look at this image, the fields which are in blue or in black are optional fields. You can provide the dispatch address, export details, shipping address, reference details such as customer PO, sorry, and then payment terms. Those are all optional details. So the number of mandatory sections are 28. Okay, and this is the total. The total sections are 133, out of which 28 are mandatory. So the sections listed here with saying that whether they are mandatory or optional. So invoice line item details are mandatory, preceding document reference, etc. are optional. There is no requirement to go into these details. Jstsm offering. So this is what Jstsm offers. So we offer Excel connector, ODBC direct database access, and click button in ERP. So under Excel, we have two types of solutions: secured folder and drag and drop. In secured folder, the file is sent to a server. From there, Jstsm takes it and generates the e-invoice. The file is, the information that is on the invoices where e-invoice is generated is sent back to the secured folder. This is an automatic process. The second option is drag and drop, wherein you manually upload the Excel file in Jstsm and generate the e-invoice. In direct database access, this is an on-prem solution where we install where the option to generate e-invoice is provided directly in the database. We have some custom solutions that are there for Tally and SAP, and we also provide APIs for integration with various softwares. Now my colleague Srivatsa will take over and show you the demo of the software. Srivatsa, please take over.
Yes, Bharti. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Srivatsa.
All right. I will start sharing my screen. Okay, I think you must be able to see my screen now, right, Bharti?
Yes, Srivatsa, your screen is visible.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Srivatsa, and today I will be demonstrating how e-invoices can be generated through Jstsm. So we offer different modes of integration, namely Excel, API, database, Tally, SAP, etc. We also support e-invoicing through our very own billing software. In today's webinar, I will be showing a demo of Jstsm's Excel method of integration, API method of integration, and the billing software. So we will be looking at 3 demos today, and the very first demo will be the Excel integration. So what you see right now is the Jstsm dashboard. So when you create an account with us and you log in, this is the very first page that you will see, where we will display all the GST numbers that you have entered. If you wish to add a new GST number, you can click this button and you will be able to add a new GST number. So this is where we will list out all your GST numbers. For today's demo, I will be doing it for this GST number that I have highlighted. So when I click that number, we will take you to the detailed page of the GSTN, where you will see some options like download a report, reconcile books versus portal data, file returns, and so on. As Bharti had mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, we provide GSTR 13B99C filing, reconciliation of books and portal data, and we also provide consolidated reports. If you see towards the right hand side, there is an option called E-Invoicing. So in order to generate E-Invoices, we have to click that button, and you can see 5 different methods of generating E-Invoices. What I'm going to show a demo of is the Jstsm Excel full that you see in the second row. So before I go into the demo for Jstsm Excel full, I will briefly talk about the other methods. So the first one is a macro-based Excel upload, wherein you can download the file, enter the data, and upload this. The one exactly below that, that is the Jstsm Excel full, is an updated version of this. So we do not recommend the macro Excel anymore. Our latest Excel is the Jstsm Excel full. Secondly, Tally SAP integration. So like I said, we offer integrations through Tally and SAP as well. And then we have your Excel. So your Excel is nothing but when you give us your Excel format, we will map it in our software according to the government portal schema. And then we will provide the mapping configuration. We will load the mapping configuration into your account, after which through a simple drag and drop method, you will be able to generate E-invoices using your Excel format. So this is Jstsm's Excel format. So when I click here, I will be able to download the Excel template. So I will quickly download the template and show what the columns are. So you will see that there are 3 sheets primarily: about, sales invoices, and master data. So about and master data sheet are purely for reference. You do not have to enter any data here. Sales invoices sheet is where the data entry will happen. If you see, this is very similar to the government portal's Excel utility. We have columns that are color coded based on the section of the E-invoice schema they belong to. What I mean by that is all the columns in yellow belong to the document details section of the E-invoice schema, where the document type, date, and number, these 3 columns are mandatory. Whatever you see in bold are mandatory columns. You have to provide values to these columns in order to generate an E-invoice. So then we have the supplier details section, where you see that the supplier GST number, the supplier legal name, address, line 1, city, and PIN code are mandatory. Similarly, with the recipient details as well, the same set of columns are mandatory again. Ship to and dispatch, which is our next set of columns. These columns are optional. If at all you are providing ship to details, you have to provide everything marked in bold. Otherwise, you can leave these 2 sets of columns blank. You do not have to provide, as they are not mandatory. Then we have the item level details, where you will be entering the HSN code, the product description, UQC, what is the taxable value of the line item, what is the GST rate, and the GST amount. So these are some of the mandatory fields. And if I scroll further right, you will see there are some additional fields such as TCS. If at all there is an invoice level discount, you can provide it. Other charges on an invoice level, round off amount, foreign currency code, and total in foreign currency. So this is useful for export invoices. And we also support customer purchase order and purchase order number and purchase order date. So these are all the fields that are available in Jstsm's standard Excel template. So you have to fill in the data in this file and upload it back to Jstsm over here. So I have a filled up template with me here, and you will see that if we notice the invoice numbers, you will see that for invoice number 151, I have 2 rows. So what this means is I have 2 line items for a single invoice, and this is how we support multiple line items in Jstsm Excel method. If you have 10 line items, you will copy paste the invoice level details to in all the 10 rows. So you will have to copy paste document details, supplier details, recipient details in all the 10 rows. So I have entered the invoice type as INV, document date. I can actually change this to today's date. I will be doing that right now. So I have changed it to today's date. The transaction type by default is B2B. If at all it is an export invoice or an SEZ invoice, you have to provide the correct transaction type in this column. Then we have the supplier details, where I have entered only the mandatory columns. Then I have the recipient details. Again, I have only entered the mandatory columns here. I have left the optional ones blank. Ship to and dispatch I have not entered because collectively these two sections are optional. So you can ignore them if it is not applicable. Invoice level details are important. I have entered the HSN code, product description, UQC, taxable value, item GST rate, and the tax amounts. Quantity and unit price are optional. If you don't provide quantity, by default, we will consider it as 1, and unit price is optional. So if you don't provide, you will still be able to generate an e-invoice. So now I have 5 invoices here. Actually, the 6th invoice, I have already generated an e-invoice. So I would like to show how we handle already generated e-invoice if you try to upload them again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the file, close it, and then select the file. You can either select it or drag and drop the file and say upload. So when you hit upload, we will show you 3 tabs: summary, errors, and invoices. So in the summary tab, you will see the number of documents that you have uploaded. So it says you have uploaded 5 documents. Even though there were 6 invoices in the Excel. That is because there is an error in this invoice, and the error messages e-invoice already generated for this invoice number. So we will simply ignore that invoice and we will consider the other invoices. So it says that the number of documents is 5, and this is the sum of the taxable amount for all the 5 documents. We also show the sum of the tax amounts and the document date range between which these invoices exist. So this is what you will be able to see in the summary tab. And this is helpful because you can tally the value that our software displays and the value in your Excel. And we have already seen the error tab. If there are any more errors, we will display it one below the other. Coming to the invoices tab, here you see a more descriptive summary of the invoices. You see the customer Gst number, customer name, what is the invoice number, date, taxable value, taxes, and so on. And towards the far right, there is a PDF button. So when I click this button, you will see that we display the PDF. This is Jstsm's standard PDF format. And this is a tax invoice. This is a regular invoice. It has not yet become an e-invoice. That is why it does not have an IRN and a QR code. So now I'm going to close this PDF. And in order to upload the e-invoices to the government portal, we have to click this button. And when I confirm, you will notice that the yellow circle will change to a green tick mark. And as per the legend, green tick mark means e-invoice has been created. So you can see that the yellow has changed to green. Now I will open the PDF and you will see that there is an IRN number, there are acknowledgement details, and there is a QR code. And if you scan this QR code with the government portal app, you will be able to verify the e-invoice. So now we have successfully generated e-invoices for these 5 invoices. So now I want to know more details about the invoice. So I will simply click the invoice number, and this is what you see here is a detailed view of the invoice. So in Jstsm, every invoice will have a detailed view. This is that view where we show you the IRN number, who has issued this e-invoice, whether it is the sandbox portal or the production portal. In this case, it is sandbox portal, hence it says unofficial. Then we also display the acknowledgement date and the acknowledgement number here itself. You will be able to open the PDF again from here. And what I'm going to do now is demonstrate how an e-waybill can be generated from this point. So we have a button here that says generate e-waybill. I click that button and all I have to enter is the vehicle details and the mode of transport. We can leave the distance as 0. It will be calculated from the pin codes. We can enter the vehicle number and the mode of transport and say generate e-waybill, and an e-waybill will get generated. We have the e-waybill number, the date, and till when the e-waybill is valid. So now if I open the PDFs, we will have both the e-invoice details in the very first row, and then in the next row we have the e-waybill details, e-waybill number, date till when it is valid, and the vehicle number. So this way you can also generate an e-waybill through Gstsm's Excel method. Now let's say there was a mistake in the invoice, and an e-invoice got generated. So we have the option to cancel the e-invoice from here. So you can click cancel and say yes, and the e-invoice will get cancelled. It will say that it is cancelled. So this has actually gotten cancelled. So what I'm going to do now for another invoice that we created today, I'm going to verify that it actually got generated. So what you see here is Gstsm's sales register, where all your sales invoices and e-invoices will be stored. Okay, this is typically a sales register that has some filters. So you can apply a range of filters to narrow your search. Let's say you want all the sales invoices that you have raised to a particular recipient. You can simply enter their GST number or their name and filter it. And by applying all these filters, you will also be able to download Excel on an invoice level and a line item level, and up to 50 e-invoices at a time. You can also download the PDFs in bulk. So this is how the sales register will be very helpful. So now I'm going to open this e-invoice, and I'm going to verify that it actually got generated in the government portal. So in order to do that, I will download the acknowledgement JSON, and I will go to the e-invoice portal. And they have an option where I can verify the signed invoice. So I will simply select the acknowledgement JSON that is available in Gstsm, upload it, and say submit. When I do this, you will see that the government portal has verified this invoice. It says this is a digitally signed invoice. In fact, this is the same IRN number that is available in Gstsm. And further, you will be able to scan the QR code from here. And if you scroll down, it also says that it has been digitally signed by the NIC IRP. So now we have verified that this is generated. Now I'm going to cancel it and re-verify. So I hit cancel, and it says e-invoice cancelled. So in order to verify, I need to download the updated acknowledgement JSON, come back to the government portal, and verify the signed invoice again. We will see that there is a watermark saying cancelled. As you can see, it says cancelled. So this is to demonstrate that the e-invoice that got generated in Gstsm is actually Gstsm sent the data to the government portal, made sure that it got generated, and is relaying the response in the form of IRN number and QR code. So this is how an e-invoice can be generated in bulk, and also e-invoices can be cancelled in Gstsm. So that is the end of the Excel demo. What we will be looking at now is the API demo. So this is especially useful for software developers. Zen provides 4 API endpoints: create e-invoice, create e-waybill, cancel e-invoice, cancel e-waybill. What you see here is the create e-invoice API endpoint. What we will be doing is making a post request to this endpoint, and in the header section, we will be passing something called as a token, and this token will be given to you when you create a Zen account. The token is used for authentication purposes. Without a token, you will not be able to generate an e-invoice. So in the body, I have the e-invoice JSON. So you have to construct this JSON, and this has to follow the government portal's JSON schema, where you have to ensure that you have provided all the mandatory columns. So now, if you notice towards the bottom, I also have the e-waybill details in this payload. So what I am trying to do right now is by posting I'm going to demonstrate that by posting to this URL, I will be able to generate both e-invoice and e-waybill at the same time, since I have the e-waybill details in the payload. Now I have already generated an e-invoice for this number. I cannot do it again. Hence, I'm going to change this number and also update the date here. I will give today's date and I will make the request. So when I do that, you will see that in under 2 seconds, I have received the response from Gstsm, and the status is 1, which means it was successful. Message is IRN generated, and it says pin-to-pin calculated distance because this is for the purpose of e-waybill. The distance calculated by the portal between the pin codes is 1350 kilometers. In our response, we provide the IRN number, acknowledgement details, and also e-waybill details. Since e-waybill has also been generated, we will provide the e-waybill number, date, the acknowledgement number as a string. So two important things are the signed QR code and signed invoice. The signed invoice is nothing but the acknowledgement JSON that is available inside Gstsm. It is essentially the same information that is available there. We have the signed QR code and the signed invoice, which can be validated using Gstsm's free tools. And coming to the most important part of the response, we also have the QR code URL. So if at all you want to download the QR code, you can call this URL by prefixing Gstsm's domain name, and you will be able to download the image from the JSON response that you are receiving. Likewise, you will also be able to download the PDF from Gstsm. You have to append the prefix to, you have to prefix this URL as well with my.gstsm.in, and you will be able to download this PDF. So this is the same PDF that is available in your Gstsm account. So now I'm going to search for this invoice in my sales register. Let's say I want to actually make sure that it got generated. So I will simply go here and search for this number. You can see that it has gotten generated, and these are all the details. Let's say you want to cancel this through the API itself. All that you have to change is the URL. Everything else remains the same. The body of the request remains the same. The header remains the same. Only the URL will change if at all you want to cancel an e-invoice. And when you hit send, it will cancel the e-invoice and give you a response saying IRN cancelled. Okay, this is the UUID. UUID is nothing but a number that is used to uniquely identify an invoice in Gstsm. We also have the IRN number here and the cancel date. So you can see that if I refresh the invoice here, it says e-invoice cancelled. So the e-invoice has been cancelled. So so this API is so simple to use that to cancel an e-invoice, you should only change the URL. So we have seen how an e-invoice can be generated and cancelled through Gstsm's API method. And now we will be looking at our billing software. So this is the last part of my demo. after which we can take questions both on the theoretical part of e-invoicing and Jstsm software. So coming to Jstsm's billing software, this is where you can create an invoice by manually entering data and then also create an e-invoice for it. So in order to do that, from the detailed page of the Gst number, you can click on sales register and then click on create invoice. So you're creating an invoice from scratch. So this is the source. And you will see here there are 3 to 5 cards here, which are basically different sections of the e-invoice schema, starting with document details, where we have the document number. This will be auto-populated based on the series. So let's say your previous invoice was INV 100. This will be INV 101. So this will get auto-populated. Your document date is the only thing that you have to set in this section. Document type and supply type code will be set to invoice and B2B respectively by default. So if you want to change, you can select it and change it to debit note or credit note. That can be done. Here as well, you can change it to one of these options. Reverse charge and IGST on intra will be set to no by default. You can change that to yes if necessary. So I will leave it at no. Then I have the supplier and recipient details. So supplier details will be auto-populated. It is your details. We already have the information. So we will enter your Gst number, legal name, trade name. If you want to make changes here, you can make changes. Recipient details, we have a facility where you can search either by Gst number or by the name of the recipient. So I am going to search by the name of the recipient. And when I select this recipient, the legal name, trade name, address, state, PIN code, and all the other fields, they are auto-populated. So this is because Jstsm has a customer supplier master. And if you upload your customer supplier master into Jstsm, it is a one-time activity to do it. If you do that, then next time onwards, whenever you are creating an invoice in our billing software, all you have to do is select the Gst number and we will auto-populate the other information. Ship to and dispatch details. So far I have added document details, supplier and recipient details. Coming to ship to and dispatch, as it is optional, we have hidden it. If at all you want to provide, you can select this checkbox and you will be able to enter the details. Very similar to recipient details again. If you search with the name, it will auto-populate all the information. So for now, I'm going to hide this. I do not need this information. In fact, I'm going to remove all the details that have been auto-populated. All right. So now I'm going to hide the dispatch details as well. Coming to the line item details. So this is where you should enter information about the line items. So you have the product, the HSN code, description, quantity, total, so on. On Jstsm, there is something called as a product master. And if you enter the information against every product, here, when you select a product, everything will get auto-populated. Like for example, the unit rate, your taxable, your taxes, and so on. So right now I'm going to create an invoice with 2 line items. And you can see here that by default, the quantity is 1 and the total item value is auto-populated. I will just copy paste the HSN code here. We will suggest it and you can select the HSN code. So another item I'm going to add, and that is going to be tables. So here also I will enter the HSN code. And now I want to increase the quantity. So I will make this 3 and I will make this 2. So all the computation will happen automatically and we will have these values for the line items. If you want to add an item, we can click this button. If you want to remove an item, you can click this button. So now we have 2 line items and we move forward. Additional details. If at all there are any payment terms, you can enter it here. And if the invoice has any additional information, so let's say I enter note ABC, I can enter that here and this will appear in the E-Invoice PDF. Finally, the last part of the billing software is the invoice details. So let's say I want to provide a 10 rupee discount. I will simply enter it here and the total amount will change. But then I have other charges, miscellaneous charges of 200. So I enter that here and it will get added to the total amount. So this facility is also there. If you want to round off the total amount, simply click this and you will be able to round it off. It's not applicable in this case, hence I will disable it. So now in order to save this invoice, I will click the save invoice button. So the invoice got saved. E-invoice is not yet generated. We are yet to do that. So in order to do that, I will click review and I can open the invoice now. And you must be familiar with this page by this point. It is still a tax invoice. That is why it says tax invoice here. And the PDF will not have the IRN number and the QR code. Now, in order to get the IRN number and QR code, all I have to do is click this button and it will say e-invoice generated. So now if I open the PDF, I will have the IRN and the QR code. So this is how you can generate an invoice in the billing software. And other options are also available here. It is similar to when you create an invoice through other methods. You can generate e-way bill and you can cancel the e-invoice. So that brings me to the end of my demo. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you. If you have any questions on the be it the theory part of e-invoicing or the demo, please do raise your hand or you can enter your question in the chat. Okay, it looks like we do not have any questions. We will, Bharti, can you please share your screen with the coordinates? Bharti, please share your screen with the coordinates. Tally ERP 9, we do have a YouTube video on how e-invoice integration works through Tally ERP 9. So we will be sending an email to all the registered email addresses, whoever registered for this webinar. We will be sending an email after the webinar along with the YouTube link to the complete webinar. We will also share the video of Tally integration. So we have Tally integration for both ERP 9 and Prime. We will share the video of the same. Yes, e-invoices can be generated for backdated invoices. So far, portal will allow you to generate an e-invoice for an invoice dated after 31st March 2021. Bharti, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so it will allow you to generate an e-invoice from the date on which you were applicable for e-invoicing. So most of the people here are applicable from 1st of October. So today you can generate an e-invoice for an invoice dated 1st of October. Okay, we will be sharing a link of this recorded session and the presentation to all the registered participants.
Yes, we will be sharing that, and we have our coordinates both on the screen and in the chat. If at all you have queries about pricing, please do call our support number, or you can also reach us by sending an email to support@gstsm.in. Like both of us had mentioned before, we have integrations with Excel, API, Tally, database, be it SQL Server or Oracle. We have integrations with that. We also have integrations with with SAP and Tally. So any ERP, a custom ERP, you will be able to generate any invoice by using our API. So if you need more information, please do get in touch with us and we can share all the details.
Okay, next question by Poonam G. How can we check it on the E-Invoice site? So when you log in using your username password, okay, so there is an option of MIS reports. So there you can check the E-invoices generated. You'll be able to check for the E-invoices generated in the past 72 hours. You will not be able to go beyond that. How to cancel E-invoice after 24 hours? You cannot cancel it after 24 hours. What you can do is you can cancel it from your books and remove it from your GSTR1 by filing. How will it reflect in GST of the recipient? It will go to the recipient's GSTR 2A and 2B automatically from your GSTR 1, and it will also show the IRN in there. Are there any other questions? Okay, so you have been able to generate for 30th of September. See, it is applicable from 1st of October, but if you have enabled yourself before that, you might be able to generate. Okay, what next question is, what is the difference for export invoices in terms of data input? There would be not much difference in the buyer details. In place of buyer GST number, you would be mentioning URP, that is unregistered party, and in the PIN code you will be giving 99999. Place of supply will be foreign country, and your transaction type will change to export with payment of tax or without payment of tax.
So essentially there are 4 changes.
Delivery challan. So for delivery challan, e-invoicing is not applicable. So you would be continuing the same method as before. Okay, today is 4th, but I want to generate in date 1st. Yes, you can generate the e-invoice today for 1st of October. It will say that the acknowledgement date is 4th of October, but the invoice date will remain the same. Are there any other questions?
Yes, we have a question.
Okay.
There is one person raising, Basavaraj. Please ask your question, sir. You can unmute and go ahead.
Okay. In the meanwhile, Mr. Ravindra, mostly supplier billing address and dispatch address is different.
I just want to know. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. What about the sales returns? In case we have to do sales return.
Yeah. So the document type would be a credit note. Okay. Yes. Am I audible to you, sir? Hello. E-invoicing is also applicable for credit notes and debit notes. Srivatsa, am I audible to you?
Yes, I can hear you, Bharti.
Okay. I hope I've answered your question.
Till what time Jstsm software can keep track of e-invoice? So in the sales register, the e-invoice that is available, we will store it for 7 years.
Okay, so going on to other questions. Yeah, so you can provide a different billing address, and I think you mean ship to address. The fields are available to provide both information. In the same way, you can also have billing address and dispatch address. You can give in separate sections. Okay, Srivatsa would have shown you in the Excel. There are fields for providing the billing address as well as the dispatch address. We are okay. Next question is, bunker trader, our VAT turnover is more than GST. GST turnover is 20 lakhs only. So if your total turnover is above 10 crore for the whole PAN in one of the previous financial years, you are eligible for e-invoicing and you have to generate e-invoices for that 20 lakhs. Okay. If we have to send goods in 3 vehicles using the same e-invoice, can I split? Or I think it is using CKD and SKD, you can split, and yeah, you can make challans. E-invoicing in Tally Prime, we'll send you the link of the video, you can view in that. So after using e-invoice, will auto capture in GST site. Sir, ma'am, your question is not clear. Miss Poonam, can you please clarify? If you could unmute yourself. Okay, I see e-invoicing, if you are generating today, e-invoicing auto population stops for a month when you filed the GSTR1. Okay, so if I generate an e-invoice for an invoice dated August, you would have most likely filed the GSTR1 already. So it will not auto-populate anywhere. Auto-population is done based on the invoice date. Is your question answered? Okay. Yes, it is preferable that you make invoice and e-invoice in the same day. I would recommend that you follow this. Otherwise, please do it within 48 hours. Even beyond that, e-invoice generation is accepted by the portal, but I would recommend that you do it the same day. What about sales returns? Yes, for a credit note, you also have to generate the e-invoice. The document type would change and the document number will be your credit note number. Is it possible to change invoice after we make IRN? No. Once e-invoice is generated, you cannot modify anything. You only have the option of canceling it, that too only within 24 hours. And then you have to generate a new invoice with a different invoice number. I have generated e-invoice and e-waybill, but after 4 days, supplier returned the material, so I have to create a credit note. Yeah, you cannot generate an e-waybill on IRN when it is a credit note. You'll have to generate the e-waybill separately for that. Mr. Ravindra. Okay, please share the video of how to generate. Yes, we'll share the video. The ship and dispatch are same. No, dispatch address is the address from which you are supplying, and ship to address is the address you are supplying to. Basically, the recipient's address you're sending goods to, and dispatch address is maybe your godown or factory from where you're moving the goods. Are there any other questions? No,
Bharti,
we
I
do
don't
not
think.
provide a video for JSON filing. I'm not sure what your question is. Could you please elaborate? Mr. Mukesh Nair. You were saying something, Srivatsa?
No, Bharti, I think if the questions are done, we can end the webinar.
Okay, advance receipt. Can we generate e-invoice? No, it is only applicable for invoice, credit note, and debit note. You cannot use the same number again, even though it is cancelled.
Bill to and ship to details are not mandatory. Okay, they are bill to recipient details are mandatory. Ship to is not mandatory. Ship to and dispatch are optional sections. Seller and recipient details are mandatory sections. And Mr. Mukesh Nair, we do have an option to upload JSON, not as a file, as just in text format. You can upload the JSON. We do not have a video on that, but we can, if you can get in touch with us, and we will let you know how you can generate e-invoice through JSON. Our coordinates are available on the screen.
If you're not able to register the e-invoice today, you can register it tomorrow. E-invoice portal allows generation for backdated invoices.
Okay. Thank you everybody for joining today's webinar. We hope you found it informative. And if at all you have any queries, please do write to us. Our coordinates are available on the screen. And if you need e-invoicing solutions, please do give us a call. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.